So it's Stories with Nana. And tell me more about your early childhood. So you grew up in England, in Hull, which was one of the most bombed cities in England.
No, it was more deaths there because it was flat. And so when the bombs dropped, the blast spread. If
Right,
you had
okay.
hills in between, not so many people died. So that was why the death count was much higher in Kingston upon Hull. It's not called that, I don't think, anymore. I was born in 1935, so for 4 years I didn't really know anything about, but just peace and bliss, and then in 1939 war was declared, and we didn't have any war. It didn't happen. It was 1940 when it started, and my parents decided to send me away.
How old were you when you were sent away? How old were you when you were sent away?
Well, I was 4.
4.
No, I was 35. I was 5. I was 5. My school had been bombed, and I saw it going up in flames. And then we were close to the docks because that's where Dad was the foreman of a dockyard, of a timber yard. And so they sent me to my Auntie May.
Okay. Say no more.
Who had a kitchen sink clogged up with lamb fat, because they did have a joint every week, but the lamb fat went. Anyway, they must have got me back from there, and then I went to North Cave to my other aunt, and it was just so different. It was all spring flowers, and it was just North Cave. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience for me. You know, really made up for Auntie May.
Did your parents come and visit you there when you were at North Cave, or were you isolated from them?
I can remember them taking me in the motorbike and the sidecar. They took me and they stopped, and the whole sky was scarlet because they were bombing the whole docks. And they took me to stay. I don't remember, my 2 brothers were there the first time. And I was sort of comforted by having my brothers there.
Mm.
I wasn't just in this situation on my own. I had to go a second time, and I can remember seeing them drive off, and they didn't tell me. And I can remember crying because I didn't want them to go. But anyway, North Cave made up for it. It was beautiful for me. I really, really loved it. And then, but before all that happened, we'd had the bombing. We had an Anderson shelter, which was a concrete, thick shelter. And I used to go and sleep down there, and Dad and my brothers would be keeping watch. I'm not doing very well with this. They would be watching. You could hear the siren go, and then you could hear the Messerschmitts coming over, and you could hear the heavy bombers, and then you knew. And they would whistle down. The bombs whistled as they came down, and you'd say, that was a close one, and that was because your whole place shook. And my parents, everybody came in the shelter when the bombing was on, but it was, it was almost exciting because it was such a lovely family time, and I got to stay up at night because they only had bombing during the day to begin with, and then they got night raids, and then and my mother used to make corned beef stew. She'd put it on the stove. It was potatoes, onions, carrots, anything she could get, and a tin of corned beef because we were rationed. And when the bombing was finished, we'd go out and have this most delicious corned beef stew. It was just a happy memory. And actually it was all quite exciting for me.
Tell us the story about the house that was bombed
Oh,
and the
well,
indomitable British spirit.
yes, a lot of houses around us were bombed, but there was one. There must have been. They used to send landmines down on parachutes. They were horrible because you never knew when they'd go off. Anyway, there was this house. Everything was blown out, and there were just 2 or 3 steps up to the doorway, and there was a bottle of milk on it. The milkman, the house had gone, but the milkman must have come around and he still left his milk. So, life went on, it just went on. We didn't have water, we didn't have electricity. Barry got boils because of the conditions we were living in. And that's why what's going on here now, I think, well, I've seen all this before, I've seen it, and we got through it. So